My family and I used to go up north for ice fishing when I was younger. My parents had friends who owned some cabins in pretty much the middle of nowhere. There was a small gas station about a mile away, but after that, it would take about 20 to 30 minutes to see anything else. On our way up, snow started to fall, and I just wanted to get settled in and play some games. It was an 8-hour drive to get where we were going, and it would be around 4 p.m. when we finally arrived. Since it was January, the sun was starting to set already, and I was pretty tired. We pulled into our cabin's parking lot and started to unload. The cabins had smart locks, so all we had to do was get the code and enter it. Then, it would give us the key to unlock the door. I grabbed my backpack and suitcase and went to enter the code, but I noticed there were already tracks leading up to the door. I told my dad, and he said it was probably the cleaning person or something. I took his word for it and went to open the door. Walking inside, I saw a bit of water on the floor. Again, I assumed it was from the cleaning lady. Other than that, though, it looked fine and just how I remembered. I went to my room, the one I'd always stay in, and started to unpack. But when I went to close the blinds on the window, I saw tracks again. It looked like they were coming from the woods and up towards our house, and judging by the snowfall, they had to be fresh. I told my dad, and he said he would check it out. By the time we got everything unloaded, though, the snowfall had gone from sprinkling to almost blizzard-like. My dad said, if anyone was out there, they're definitely not anymore if they're smart. He made SpaghettiOs for me and my mom, and we watched a movie, then I went off to bed. I was awoken a few hours later to a thumping on the wall, and it sounded like it was coming from outside my window. I tried to go back to sleep, but it happened a few more times, and at this point, I wasn't even scared, but more annoyed, really. I got up and checked outside the window and saw nothing. The snow had let up a bit, so it was easier to see. I noticed the tracks again, though, almost in the same place they were the first time, coming from the woods. I made sure the windows were locked before going back to bed, as I couldn't really do anything about it anyway. The next day, I told my dad, and he seemed skeptical. We went out there together, and sure enough, there were human footsteps leading from the woods to our cabin, right up to my bedroom window, then to the front door, and then back to the woods. We've been here before, and we know that besides the cabin, there is nothing for miles, and no one ever really camps in the woods, especially during winter. My dad called up his friends and told them about it, but still, no one could really do anything. After a few hours, though, they brought over some mini cameras that you plug into the wall, and then you could see a live feed of your home. We set them up inside to make us feel safer. It was a hassle, but better safe than sorry. We left for the lake a few hours later, with my mom constantly checking the cameras and making sure nobody else was inside the cabin. When we arrived at the spot, we all left our phones in the car while we fished for some time. When we got back to the car, though, my mom had a ton of notifications about the camera sensing movement. My dad immediately called his friend to go check the cabin or call the police. His friend stayed on the line while he went inside the house with some type of gun. After a few minutes of silence, he said nothing was there. I know he should have waited for the police, but my dad's friends are just a different breed. He called the police anyway and explained the situation. We didn't get any video proof, though, because the cheap cameras only showed a live feed and didn't actually save footage. We stayed with my dad's friend the next few nights, but kept the camera up in the cabin. Sure enough, on the day we were leaving, it sensed movement again. My dad and his friend rushed over there, but again, nothing was inside. But this time, there were tracks leading from the woods to the cabin, the same tracks I saw on the first and second day. My dad thought about following the tracks, but my mom urged him not to. It's a bit eerie to think that someone could have been inside while we were sleeping or watching us from the windows during the day. Nothing ever came of it, though, thank God. But it was still one of the creepiest experiences in my life. After that unsettling experience, we decided to switch things up for our next trips. Opting for a different cabin, we hoped for a fresh start, free from any mysterious occurrences. Thankfully, our decision paid off, and our subsequent visits were uneventful. My dad's friend, who owned the cabins, admitted that they never managed to uncover the truth behind the strange happenings. It remained a lingering mystery. Perhaps the individual responsible for the eerie tracks had ceased their visits altogether, vanishing into the wilderness once we departed.